sometimes it can feel like my wants and desires are getting like pushed to the side to support yours because yours brings in an income.
I feel guilty. I don't feel like there's any room for me to express that. And that's a story I'm telling myself because I know that if I did, you would listen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I always listen to you whenever you talk about work stuff.
I know, but sometimes you got to read the room. All right.
Are those new pants?
Are these new pants? Newish. Mm-hmm. Newish pants. Why, you like them?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, they look like jean jogger.
Jean joggers? Yeah, it's kind of like fashion, but also comfort.
Yeah, it's the best.
High speed, low drag. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
Well, we're back. It feels good to be back.
Yep, we're back.
Yeah. One of the things that has been kind of weighing on me is I've been getting a lot of people asking me questions on whether or not we're doing okay. Mm-hmm. And people have been just reaching out being like, hey, are you and Lizzie fighting a lot? Are you doing okay? You know, we're worried about you with what we see kind of on social media. Mm-hmm. What do you have to say to that? Because I think what we're putting out there versus what we're experiencing are kind of, you know, there's some truth to that, but there's also some stuff in there that is, they're not getting the full picture. So what would you say to that?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the stuff that we've put out recently has been like pretty heavy, pretty like intense conversations, which can definitely make it seem like all we do is like fight and struggle in our relationship, and there is no like good. But you know, the holidays were great together, and we just got back from a weekend in Vail together, which was really nice to like reconnect just the two of us.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, yeah. I feel like just with kids, it's sometimes hard to get those times away because you're obviously dependent on other people being able to watch your kid. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster, if I'm being honest. You know, like coming into this year, I knew you were going to be traveling a bunch, and being a solo parent for weeks at a time is challenging, especially in this phase. But I feel like I say it every phase, you know, but like this 2-year-old, like hitting, biting, screaming.
The screaming is what like gets me.
Yeah.
I think what was interesting is, you know, we sat down in December when Garrett, my coach, presented this opportunity, and we talked through it, and there was excitement coming from your end. Like, I feel like I was coming home with the expectation that you were going to be like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And then when you kind of were like, I think this is something that you should do. And for those of you who are just tuning in, like, I have an opportunity to be a protege to my coach. He started Wake Up Warrior. He's been running his coaching company for 11, 12 years. I mean, this guy is crushing it. And he asked me one day when I was out there in Dana Point if I wanted to be his protege, his right-hand guy, and run with him for a year, which meant I was going to be out there every other week for 12 months. When I came back and presented to you, I thought you were going to be like, no fucking way. And when you said something different, I was like, okay. So in pursuing that, right, I got excited. Mm-hmm. But last weekend was the first weekend I got back after a week in California. What was that like coming back? Let's talk a little bit about that experience, because this last 7-day stretch have been some of the lowest and some of the highest, I would say, in the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was initially excited for you, and I feel like it's still a great opportunity, but you know, after the first week, and I think the pressures of knowing that we have like 8-ish weeks until this second little baby like joins us, and all the stress of like trying to get everything ready or everything done before he gets here just started to weigh on me. Because when you're watching a kid, there's like, you can try and get stuff done and you'll like get things done, but then in the meantime make like 5 other messes. And so it can just become like overwhelming when you don't have any time for yourself to get those things done that you wanted to. And so I think like that was weighing on me, and then I was carrying resentment towards you for, being gone, and, you get to go chase after your dreams. And I also wanted like a better postpartum experience than I had with Luca. And sometimes it can feel like my wants and desires are getting like pushed to the side to support yours, because yours brings in an income. And so I think like I was carrying a lot of anger, and in processing it, like you can have anger and resentment towards you and the whole situation and all of that, but then I can also be happy and excited for you. And so I think I was primarily in that anchor spot, and I had to get into like a clear enough, like level-headed.
But let's pause before you start like just glossing over what it looked like, right? Like, and this is a normal thing, right? This is just what happened, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't do a good job in some things, and you didn't do a good job at some things, but it wasn't just like we processed this and it was okay. Like, no, it was fucking terrible for like 3 days. Mm-hmm. And so let's kind of back up, because I'm proud of you for being able to process this and us being able to have the conversation. And for everybody out there, the reason like we talk about the hard stuff, the reason that we put the hard stuff out there is because if we were to simply just tell you that our relationship is perfect and everything is okay and we're doing fine, like it would be a fucking lie. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't benefit from any of that, because one of the things that we talked about this past weekend was like a lot of times we feel alone in our problems. Mm-hmm. So if we were to come back to Sunday morning when I got back, mm-hmm. what kind of like, let's talk through that. Like, let's just play out that whole scenario again. What happened?
Well, first I thought you were going to be home for like Saturday morning and take like your normal, like really late Friday night flight home. So that way we could have Saturday together. And that wasn't the case. You didn't get home until Saturday at like 4 p.m. And I feel like that was just kind of like a point where I was like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like another night, another basically full day of me being home, just so you can like do this walk and talk out in California. And so I was like pissed off about that. And then also knowing that like, okay, now we have Sunday together for you to like, but like, I feel like every single weekend we just get into this rhythm where like we get up and it's the same routine. Like, you go to the gym and then I go to the gym, and then like we're not spending, and then like you go up and work and then I'm with him. So like every single day is like the same thing. Like,
yeah.
We don't have time together. We don't have time together as a family. I don't have time to do like the things that I want to, because my schedule is just watching him. And so like it's just exhausting, like eventually you get to your wit's end and like you're upset. I'm like our relationship is tense, and then therefore my relationship with Luca is tense.
Yeah.
And like, like you just kind of like, I guess I just want to like, when I'm feeling that anger and resentment and like all those negative emotions, I just kind of want to like peel back, because I feel like I'm carrying that bad energy and I don't want to be around a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think there's miscommunication on my part, even though I felt like I had explained it to you. Obviously it was not explained to you perfectly on when I was coming back. So I get that. And then, coming back Sunday, I think the feud that we got into, or the argument that kind of set this whole thing off, was, the night before on Saturday, you told me you had wanted to go to the gym because sometimes, you were going to need alone time because you had just spent time with Luca, and there's other times when you wanted family time. And the night before, you had told me what?
That I was going to go to the gym.
Go to the gym. So I got up, and in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make this as easy as possible. I've been gone all week. I'm going to try to at least step up and like give you whatever you need. So I made your coffee, I got your water ready, started the car, but you took that as something different. What did you take my efforts as?
Thought you were like pushing me out the door.
I was like, you thought I was just trying to kick you out the fucking door. And in my mind, like when we started to feud over that, I was like, what is going on? But that was just the beginning, because like a day later, when Luca woke up in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m., I went in there to take care of him because I'd been gone for the week. And so my mind was like, I'm going to go take care of Luca while he's crying, because Lizzie did it for the last week. And I was in there, I was holding him, put him back down. He's going through this thing where he falls asleep, and the moment you put him down, he wakes back up and starts crying again. And then you came in hot. What was going on when you like came in hot and started like, I mean, you were yelling at me.
Well, yeah, way to talk about all my crazies.
I mean, fellas, just so you know, don't call your wife crazy. It's not going to go well.
Your pregnant wife.
Your pregnant wife crazy. In the heat of the battle, sometimes you say stupid shit, which I did and I apologize for. But it's not that you're crazy. There was just something going on. But in that moment, you started doing what with me?
Well, I was angry at you or probably just angry at the situation and getting, triggered by the fact that Luca hasn't been sleeping or eating, and you try and like make adjustments, and sometimes things just don't work,
Yeah.
and that can be frustrating, but they're not robots.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think I was just frustrated because it's like, I just keep going back to the fact that like, if you're like, we're about to have a newborn and you're going to be traveling, and what am I going to do if Luca's up and the newborn's up at the same time?
Yeah.
And that just creates like a lot of stress.
Yeah. So I didn't ask you questions of how you wanted me to handle it and how you've been addressing it with him not sleeping. And so I made an assumption. I made an assumption that this is what you needed, and it actually fucked up your whole routine. And so in my mind, right, what I think the biggest thing here is like we just weren't communicating. You didn't tell me what you were doing, and I didn't ask. And in me not asking, it's just as bad as you not telling me, right? Or it's just as problematic, should I say.
Right, but it's also like, I don't know, like sometimes it's just not prescriptive, like I'm trying to also give you space to be the parent that you want to be. And I don't know, sometimes going in there to settle him works, and other times it doesn't.
Yeah. But this led to us getting into like a pretty big, I felt like really disconnected from you. And so it was like Sunday, it started off with the gym thing. Tuesday, it was again with Luca. And so like, we're just going at it. And I was like, honestly, fuck, this is not good. Like it was tough.
Yeah.
And so where was your head at like on Wednesday? Because we're leaving for Vail on Thursday to spend the entire weekend together. But Wednesday, we're still like in a bad spot. Like, where's your head at that point?
Yeah. Well, I was thankful that I had therapy that day, because I felt like I really needed just another person to talk through all of these feelings and help me kind of like reset a little bit, because when you're so angry, sometimes it feels like you're having so many like irrational thoughts, and then you like can't decipher between like your irrational thoughts and like what is actually reality. And so I think like being able to like recognize that and understand that, yes, we did need to have a conversation about everything, because it wasn't just going to go away on its own.
Yeah.
But I think it just takes like me getting to a better spot to be able to have that conversation, because I felt like we tried to have a conversation about how I was feeling and like what was going on a couple different times, and it wouldn't go anywhere, or like
why wouldn't it go anywhere though?
Because I think we both were just in a spot where we couldn't communicate.
Okay. So I have my opinion.
What do you think?
Yeah. 2 reasons. One, from my perspective, I don't feel like I created a container where you felt safe and heard and loved so that you could open up and tell the truth. for whatever reason, whatever I was doing, whether it was the energy I was bringing in or the questions I wasn't asking or just the way I was handling things, or it could have been just my tone of voice. You didn't feel comfortable in that situation, or my actions. You didn't feel comfortable in that situation to tell the truth. The other piece is, how do I say this? You like to sweep things under the rug. And you're working past it. But like the thing that I told you, I was like, listen, we don't need to talk anymore about any of this until you're willing to tell me the truth. And you telling me the truth is the only way that we can move past this. So in my mind, I was like, whatever the fuck else these stories are that you're telling me, we're just going to keep repeating this cycle. And so in my mind, I was like, well, I got to create a container where she feels safe. That's my job. And then 2, you had to get to a spot where you could be truthful no matter what it was.
Yes, be truthful, but be truthful in a way that wasn't also mean and going to cause more harm.
Yep.
You know, right? Because, like, you can't call me crazy.
No, probably, I think, I'm going to put that one right up here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that again.
And, like, if I'm angry, then I might say some hurtful things,
Yeah.
and then we're, like, back at it again.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's really dependent on both parties being in a calm enough space where there's not this anger coming in that you're just calling each other names or like, you fucking did this, and you know,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, and I don't think you were calling me names. I don't think I called you crazy. I said you were acting crazy, which, to your point, it doesn't really matter. Crazy's crazy. I'm not trying to justify it. I learned my lesson. And you make a great point of like, you coming in and saying like hurtful things is not going to be helpful either. But you came out of that therapy session, like, your whole energy shifted. Mm-hmm. What happened in that allowed you to now speak truth, but also come from a place of just being like, you were very composed.
Yeah. Well, I think it just took like having that person like validate your emotions because.
Did I not validate your emotions?
I think it's the balance of like feeling like guilty for having, you know, the emotions, because obviously what you do allows me to stay home. And I don't know, maybe I have these expectations for myself that I'm supposed to be this like perfect little housewife, you know, that just like stays at home and is so grateful that her husband goes out and makes money, but like,
listen, I think that's a bullshit story. I've never said that you had to be like this house mom that does this because like you don't work.
Yeah, I know.
Have I ever said that to you?
No.
So this is where like stories start to get like fucking way out of whack, and they start to come in and start to create like these narratives that I've never said. Mm-hmm. Which means you're holding me to a standard that, like this fantasy thing that I've never created for us.
Right. I think it's just like the things of like trying to get care, but only getting care for Luca like this many days, you know, in a week and things like that. Like this.
Like that?
Other side.
Get out of here, cat.
Other side.
Let me go get this. Where is it? Thanks.
No, it's like stuck.
Okay, well, it's obviously not that big of a deal. All right.
I got it.
So you're trying to get childcare, but I've never told you that, like, because you're at home, you have to do everything. In fact, I feel like we've had conversations where I brought to you, I was like, these are the tasks that I'm willing to take off your plate.
Yes.
Grocery shopping, taking out the trash, cleaning up, where we alternate between Luca at evening, putting him to bed, or doing the dishes.
Yes, and the system that we have now is much better than it was, but it took us a while for us to get there, because in the beginning, remember, like we used to have fights of you coming home to like this mess, and I'm like, I'm doing my best,
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you need to leave the dishes in the sink, and so I think
what I did in the past is probably created like this expectation at times with you. And I mean, at the same time, I was growing as a man, right? Like I I like the house to look a certain way, and in no way am I saying that's your
And I do too.
I know. In no way am I saying it's your responsibility to keep the house clean. What I am saying is that sometimes I would get frustrated, right? That the house is just a complete shit show. And then I just didn't express that well enough. And so, yeah, we have worked through it. But this is what we went through this week was different, right? So it wasn't about that because we have the systems in place to make our marriage run smoothly where we're very clear on who's doing what. We support one another when somebody's maybe not at 100%. So like sometimes I'll pull the weight, sometimes you'll pull the weight. But this week was different. It felt like there was two things going on at the same time and you wouldn't tell me either one of them.
Yeah.
So help me understand, why was it difficult for you to express frustration and resentment and then at the same time be like, but I still support you? Because that's what you ended up telling me.
Because it was hard for me because the anger was just like almost like out of control. I was just so angry and like angry, I think, at myself that like I agreed to this, and was like super supportive and, whatnot. And then probably angry at myself for not really thinking through how this would impact me and, the things that I wanted for my postpartum
Are you still angry about those things?
journey.
You angry at yourself?
No, I'm like trying really hard. I feel, so the great thing about anger sometimes is when you hit that like rock bottom point where you're just so frustrated with everything, it can actually like cause you to make some changes for your life. So, I'm working on getting a nanny like once a week and also just accepting that like I don't have to do it all, so like.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I don't have to do it all. It's okay to like let go a little bit and like get some help, with Luca or household tasks on a daily basis. In fact, like, I'm gonna need it with like a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old. So
you come to this realization that like you can be angry with and have resentment, and then you also can be supportive. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
You can support me in what I'm doing, and you can have anger and frustration that I'm not home and you're just like wiping dirty butts and you're cleaning dishes and the house is a fucking wreck.
Yeah. And also I think there's some sadness too, because like we're about to have a new baby and like that's an exciting time for us as a family and as a couple, and then like you'll be gone,
But here's one of the things that you've never asked me.
Yeah, how does that make you feel?
You've never once asked me how I feel, because it's not like I'm out just like gallivanting in like California. It's not like I'm out like drinking champagne and just hanging out.
I know
like
that.
I'm doing fucking work, and there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of excitement because it's not really a sacrifice if it's going to help us get to something better. But at the same time, it is a sacrifice. And so I'm out there like doing this work and I'm just thinking about the things that I'm missing with you guys. And then I feel guilty because like you're frustrated, but I'm out there trying to build this life for us that we want to have. And yeah, it's hard. It's like really hard. But you never asked. You just assumed that I was like, good.
Okay.
Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, tell me.
Sure. Maybe I never asked because like all you talk about is work sometimes, and like you're just so excited about this opportunity, and so I don't know. And I know like the newborn stage isn't your favorite.
Well,
but
okay. The newborn stage was my favorite because I didn't know. I was so overwhelmed. And the reason I'm so excited about work is like I feel guilty coming to you with my problems sometimes about work and talking to you. Like you're frustrated and you're putting all this work in at home, and then I'm going to come home after being gone and be like, oh, you're not going to believe all this stuff. Like, I don't feel like there's any room for me to express that. And that's a story I'm telling myself because I know that if I did, you would listen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I always listen to you whenever you talk about work stuff.
I know, but sometimes you got to read the room. Like, if I walked in on last Saturday, after being gone for a week,
mm-hmm.
right? And I just started to tell you about all of my things that I'm frustrated with about work. It's probably not going to go well. Even on Sunday, after being gone, about the things that I'm struggling with being gone and all the good things, probably not going to go well.
Well, majority of it was positive, though.
Yeah. And some of it was like, I see, like, I'm at a restaurant on Friday night after the event kind of wraps up and I'm by myself and I see this little kid, right, this little boy sitting there, and like it hits me, right? It hits me that I'm away from Luca for half the year, for half of the second year of his life. And while that's a small amount of time, like, to me, you understand that relationships and connection are so important to me. So yes, this is a massive opportunity, and no, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing a lot, but there's still sacrifices to this piece of like time with you, time with Luca, time with baby number 2, all of it.
Mm-hmm. There's sacrifices on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just never felt like I had the opportunity to like share that with you.
Okay.
Because like we were just working through the other stuff. And so to me, I was like, and this is not like, you didn't do anything wrong. I want to be very clear about that. Because you listened to me talk. This was a narrative in my head of just like, I felt like I couldn't bring it up to you because I didn't want you to think it was all about me.
Mm-hmm. But that's what you tell me.
What's that?
That I'm making it all about me.
Tell me, I know what you're saying, but what are you trying to say here?
I don't know.
No, you do. What are you trying to say?
No, I don't know.
You don't know or you don't want to say it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't believe you. What are you holding in right now?
No, we'll talk about it after.
Lizzie, just let it out.
Because sometimes I feel like once we get on these podcasts, like it's like all about like me being whatever.
I just said I was the one who made some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I just owned up to it. I just said that you didn't do anything.
But like if you can't talk about like some of those things, then obviously like going back to what you said in the beginning, like it's about creating that environment so that you feel safe to be able to bring those things.
Yeah, and I think, look, I think that we've been talking about all the hardship that we went through all week, and the anger and the frustration you had, and me not be feeling like I can open up to you, and then we were just up in Vail where things got to slow down for a minute. Mm-hmm. And what were we able to do then?
Like talk about stuff.
Yeah, we were able to open up. I was then able to share all of the stuff with you that it's been hard for me and my frustrations. You were able to do what with me?
Do the same.
And how did that feel?
Better.
So
like
walking
we're
out
on
of
the
like
same page.
Yeah, walking out of like 3 days together, right, where we get to spend 3 nights together up in Vail. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about our relationship now versus like before we left?
Well, it's better now. We're definitely more connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with the quality time.
Quality time, but like just also getting time away from like our normal environment.
Yep.
And our normal routines to like take away that stress and pressure.
And when everything started, when the pressure started to come down and things were able to slow down and it was just you and me, mm-hmm. what came out was truth.
Yeah.
And that truth of like where I was at and where you were at, in my opinion, is what connected us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do we recreate that here without having to go to Vail?
Well, I think we talked about some of the things that we wanted to do in our relationship and trying to like figure out what this rhythm is going to look like for us this year with you traveling is like we need to make space and time to connect when you are here, like during the week. And like we need, yes, it's great to go to the gym when you're here because, you know, I'm still trying to figure out that routine with Luca and all that. But we also have to find time to actually do things together as a family.
I agree.
And yeah, I think it all just requires us being like super intentional about our time, but then also communicating what we need and not assuming.
Yeah, I think assumptions get us in trouble. Mm-hmm. We watched Reacher, right? That whole series on Amazon. Mm-hmm. What did Reacher say? Assumptions kill.
Assumptions kill. Yeah.
I think we got to stop making assumptions. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just, you know, if something's bothering us, it's like being able to speak truth in a way that isn't feeling like we're getting attacked. Because you're right. If one of us comes in angry and we're saying, well, I'm speaking my truth. It's like, well, actually, you're just being a prick, Sergio.
Exactly.
You know? And so there is a place where both of us have to be responsible for making a container and holding that space. And honestly, say whatever it is, I feel like it's my responsibility to do that. I feel like that's my responsibility to lead that.
It's both of our responsibilities.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think if in order for us to have that, I think there's us being intentional with the time that we do have here. And then also it's when things are bothering us, like I'm just not okay with us sweeping it under the rug and the stories anymore. I'm just not. That's not working for me anymore.
Right. And we don't, but we have to be able to communicate, to be like, hey, like I'm upset, I'm angry, like I'm not in a place to talk about it now. And both of us being okay with like, okay, the other person taking that time to get in the right headspace to be able to have that conversation in the future. It doesn't get swept under the rug for like weeks at a time.
Yeah. I think one of the things where you and I tend to do this is one person will be ready to talk and the other person's like, I'm not ready.
Yes.
And so then the person who's ready is like, no, we're talking now. And it's like, yo, we can, but we're going to get into a feud. If you just give me a little bit of time and let me calm down, then we can enter back into the conversation. I think it'd be more productive.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a revelation though up in Vail. And no matter how difficult it is having a toddler, and no matter how wild you are being pregnant, the wild shit that you say, and no matter how much lack of sleep that we have and the stress that's high and the travel that I'm going through, at the core of our relationship, the foundation is there.
Yeah.
Like, and I love you more than anything. I do. And I can feel it, like, just being with you. Like, I was like, oh, this is why I fell in love with her. This is why I married her. And life can sometimes get in the way, which I think is important for everybody to understand, that the stressors are always going to happen, which means you have to do your own individual work.
Yeah.
I can't be dependent on you to do the work. I got to do it myself. But when I had the time to just kind of like step back, and I think it was like day 2 being up there, I was like, dude, we're fine. This is just a season.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of change at once, you know?
Yeah.
New kid, more travel, new job, new phase for Luca, you know, like it's a lot of change, and it'll just take us time to like figure out what our routine is, and I don't know. It just requires us going back to those things about being intentional about our time and communicating.
Yeah.
But
what version of me do you see come out like when when things are rough? Like when we're not connected and we're kind of fighting, what version do you see of me come out?
yeah. Well, I think there's 2 sides, right? And I think there's probably 2 sides for me too, of like we either get angry or we can actually hold the space for one another to be able to have the conversations.
Yeah.
So it's just all dependent on where that person is, or like where you're at and what you're going through with work.
Mm-hmm.
And then also me taking a step back to be like, oh, well, maybe he's, stressed because of this new change and things like that.
Yeah. The versions I see of you, it's like it's that version of you that came out of the therapist. You're open to conversations, you're calm, you're willing to connect and speak. And then the other version of you, I can't even there's no talking to you. Mm-hmm. There's no logic. There's nothing. I can't get through to you. Mm-hmm. So the big question here is, what happens? Because in my mind earlier this week, we were going down two paths. One, I could see a very clear path to us separating.
Yeah.
And then there's another path that was very clear to me as well, where we are going to work through this. We're going to thrive through this. We're going to be open and honest with one another, and we're going to come to get connected. Mm-hmm. When you think about what's worst case scenario for this? What does this look like if we don't take care of this?
Yeah.
What happens to couples who sweep things under the rug and don't speak their truth about what's bothering them?
Mm-hmm. Well, you build up so much resentment towards one another, and that anger just spills into every aspect of your life. And then maybe eventually you can get to a place where you can sweep it under the rug and just live as roommates for the rest of your life, or until you decide to make a change, or you're just not talking, or I guess you end up getting separated, or you get to the spot where you can actually talk about things.
Yeah. In my mind, if we don't address these things, this is what it looks like. One, we're going to have a conversation with the boys about why mom and dad decided to go their own ways. Mm-hmm. Or if we choose to continue to stay in a marriage at that point where it's the roommate phase, it's both of us being miserable, which means you have a sharp tongue and no patience for anyone. Yeah. Right? You have no patience for the dog or the cat. Mm-hmm. You start to steal away from the children and their childhood. Mm-hmm. And I think we saw that a little bit this week when we were frustrated.
Yeah.
Luca would do something, and he was just being a 21-month-old. Mm-hmm. And instead of letting him have his toys everywhere or, throw water or whatever the case may be, mm-hmm. we got so frustrated that we were like, all right, time to go to bed. Mm-hmm. Or got to clean up your toys. And it's this kid's just being a kid.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, I've seen it at restaurants that happen. I saw it up in Vail this week. I've seen it, in the airport. We've been guilty of it, where when the tension and the stress gets so high, mm-hmm. and the resentment is prevalent between a couple, the kids are getting the fucking brunt of it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so adamant about us just getting to truth. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm so adamant with the people that I coach about them getting to truth in their marriage. Because without it, you really don't even have a relationship.
Yeah. It just speaks to the importance of you being on the same page with your partner.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, it just bleeds into everything in your life. And I don't know, I wasn't proud of the mom that I was showing up as. And that's because of all of, the feelings that I was having just about our situation, and traveling more and being a solo parent and trying to get things done, but having no care and just being literally at my wit's end.
Okay.
So
for all the moms out there mm-hmm. who are I'm at my fucking wit's end. My husband's doing the same shit to me.
Yeah.
Doing the same shit to me. What did you figure out that you need to do that's going to help alleviate some of this stuff for you so that you can be the best mom that you want to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel and I knew that I needed to talk to my therapist. I felt I kept telling you, just need to talk to my therapist, or talk to a friend if you don't have a therapist or something like that. But I feel you just have to have one of your relationships be able to hold the space for you to talk about all the things that you're feeling, and have you validate them and almost normalize them. And then like also understanding that it's okay to like ask for help. Like we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it all. And I guess it's something that I'm like constantly working through of like, and like letting go, you know, like Luca's not going to die if he's with a sitter, or like I send him to the Parents Day Out program like one more day a week, you know, he'll be just fine. It might be a challenge in the beginning, but he'll adjust, and it's okay to ask for help. So I think like talking to someone and then understanding your needs and then being able to ask for that help that you need.
There are no problems that are unique to a parent. You may feel like you're alone. You may feel like you're on an island, but the reality is there's somebody who's been there. There's somebody who's been through it. There's somebody that can tell you what worked for them. And it sounds like it's just a lot of conversations. I think one of the big pieces that I heard is like, you can't always come to me with everything.
No.
You have to have other people.
Yes.
I'll always listen, but you have to go like work it out somewhere else sometimes too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and I think it's unfair to put everything on you too.
I agree.
Nor do I want to, because obviously we want to have a good connection.
Yeah. I talk to my friends about things that you do.
Yeah, I'm sure. You do.
And none of them are like, oh, she's a fucking whatever. None of them say that. A lot of them are like, dude, I've been there. Let me tell you about like my experience. And so it's good to be able to talk to other dudes about, yeah, dude, when we were getting ready to have our second one and I was kind of like struggling with my wife, yeah, dude, you're not alone. And just in hearing that, it normalizes it being like, okay, cool. I'm not fucking going crazy.
Right, exactly.
And the other piece for me, the thing that I've realized is I'm not responsible for your emotions. I can't process your shit.
Nope.
But what I can do is process my own and then be ready for when you're ready to talk. I think a lot of guys, or at least me, like when you were upset about something, I felt the need to fix it.
Yeah.
Like I just want, like, what can we do? Well, let's just do this, this, and this. And it's half the time, not even half, probably the majority of the time, it's just like, yo, let me handle it. And then when I'm ready to talk, we'll talk.
Right.
So a lot of the work I have to do myself is just be able to hold that open loop. And when you're ready, then we can go through it. And that's hard for me because I don't like to see you like suffering or in pain.
Well, and I think we just want to solve the problem. Yeah. Because we don't want the other person, like you said, to be in pain.
So we're by design putting ourselves through a stressful year.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it worth it to you? Like, what do you see in all of this that you're like, hey, listen, I have a ton of resentment towards you, and I'm angry. In the same breath, I support you. Like, what do you see that's allowing you to hold the space for both of those?
Yeah. Well, I think I've always told you that, like, you're a great coach, and, like, it just, like, comes very natural for you. You're a natural leader and all of that. And so if this is your dream and this is the next logical step, then I want to be able to support that for you. And then also knowing that in doing that, like, it can help us accomplish our dreams, you know, together, and what we want, like, our family life to look like.
But our family life is good right now.
It is good. Yeah.
So, and you said something in the car ride home. You said we feel like we're always chasing something, which I push back on. So then why let go of something great that we have right now to make things worse it feels like it's a little bit worse. Financially, it's worse. Connection-wise, it's worse. Relationally, it's more difficult. Why let go of something that's great?
Because it can always be better. Because, like, the fear or regret of maybe not going after something that you wanted to do, I feel like is greater than the sacrifice in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, yes, it's a sacrifice, it's a challenge, all of that. I can be happy, but, like, just understanding that hopefully it'll be worth it. And we just have to figure out our new sense of normal and like what's going to work for us, you know?
So I want you to rewind all the way back to October 2022. It's the year Luca was born. It was the year the real estate market started to, the rate interest rates started to go up, and the real estate market started to get hard towards the end of the year.
Yep.
It's my best year that I've ever had in real estate. And October is the month that I went to WarriorCon for. What man did you see prior to that in me? How was I operating? How was I thinking? How was I acting?
You were miserable. You were like done with real estate. And I know because I've been miserable in my job too, you know, like when you're miserable in your job and that's where you spend your most time, like it's not fun. You just bring that energy home. And so.
Were you feeling that at that time?
Yeah. I knew that you needed to make a change. And so when you said you wanted to go out to this event in California, I was supportive, you know, because you had already been doing coaching on the side too for real estate. So it seemed like the next logical path.
So,
and I supported you.
You did. You've always supported me. You have that man in October 2022 and everything that he brought into the marriage, all the stress and it sounds like frustration, like you're getting all of it. Then you have what we have now.
Yeah.
Which one's worse?
They're just, worse in the sense that like seeing you be miserable is not fun, you know?
Yeah.
And like, if you're doing something that you no longer enjoy, then like, I feel like any logical person would encourage their person to make a change so that they can be happier. And so I think that version is worse, even though we still have like our challenges. They're just new to us because everything is new.
Yeah.
And like sometimes change is hard.
I think most men's wives, they don't fully understand how much pain they're actually in.
Yeah.
You know, how much they're struggling. We were taught growing up, like, oh, no, don't show your emotions. You're a fucking pussy. Quit being a bitch. Like, stop crying. Like, that's how my generation came up. And so, of course, we're going to suppress it. Then you throw us in the military or you put us around, like, you know, that type of environment or sports, and all of a sudden, like, that gets amplified.
Yeah.
And so we come into this situation where, you know, I'm being open and honest with you about how I'm feeling. Most men don't do that. And so I encourage these guys, right? And you've heard me on these conversations, but I encourage these guys. I'm like, listen, you're going to go after and pursue something that you want to do, and your wife's going to fucking kick you in the dick over it. She's going to push back. You know how I know this? Because my wife did this to me. After agreeing to let me go out to California for a year, the first week I was out there, she was like, hey, I don't like this. You kick back. You push back. And at the same time, I felt like you were just testing me to feel like if this is something I actually wanted to do.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Like,
Why do you feel that?
Why do I feel that way?
Yeah.
You know that when I commit to something, I do it. You also know that when I'm wishy-washy, if you add pressure, I tend to be like, all right, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
So you're adding pressure. Nice work. Right? But what I would say is that, like, the man in October of 2022, if he had been living in that pain and that misery for a long time, which a lot of people do, they just stay in this job that they hate,
Yeah.
the disconnection would have built.
Right.
And the resentment would have been towards you, would have been towards internally, which is harder for you to even deal with. That's why I'm so adamant about, like, hey, you got to get honest with yourself about what you want.
Yeah.
And I want you to do the same thing. I love that you're a mom. I love that you're doing this thing. But this is not your purpose in life.
Right.
You know that.
Well,
It's your purpose right now.
It's my purpose for now. Yeah.
Right?
But I think I'm reframing my own idea of what it means to be a stay-at-home mom, in the sense of like, okay, you're a stay-at-home mom, you have to do it all. You have to take care of the kid, you have to take care of the house, you have to take care of things for your husband, and like your needs just go, you know, by the wayside. And so I'm working on like how I can reframe that for myself.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. But it's always easier for both of us to stay where we're at, right? Like it's easier for you to continue coaching real estate and continue, you know, growing your real estate business. You've already mastered the top of the top. And it's easier for me to just continue going through the motions with Luca every single day, it's harder to find like a care provider that I like love or like and trust with my kid and trust in my home. But sometimes the easier choice just doesn't, like, it no longer serves us. And so we have to like be willing to step into this environment where now we're creating more stress.
Which requires for any type of growth. Like if you think about you working out, like I know you're like, dude, I want a fucking nice butt. That's what you told me, which I'm very supportive of. I'm with that.
Yeah.
But in order to grow muscle, you have to add stress. In order to add stress, you have to add pain. And so there is this piece of like, we're taking our life that was at the top and we're by design putting it in the fucking ground and then rebirthing it to build something bigger.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beautiful piece about this, is that we're putting ourselves in this pit of pain. And once we get down there and we can see like where we want to go, like we have a clear vision, then it's simply just about us being on the same page, like you said.
Yeah.
Being honest about where we're at, because this is going to be a hard climb. And at the same time, if we can do all of that, we'll get there.
Yeah. Just takes time. And
most people just want to stay in comfort,
yeah.
which comfort inevitably just leads to more pain.
True. Yeah. Complacency.
Pain.
Yeah.
Average. Pain. I mean, that's just what it is. Imagine if I was the same guy in our marriage in our relationship that I was when we first started dating.
We wouldn't be together.
Yeah, why? But it was comfortable. It was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But your standards rose.
yeah. Yeah. We were both in like a very dark, and we were like, I don't know, just different people back then.
Did it get worse before it got better?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've hit rock bottom in this year yet.
Yeah.
And knowing that we were able to navigate this little pit, I'm very confident we can do that again later.
Yeah.
So, listen, y'all. I think we should wrap here.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say. Each and every one of you is in a situation that needs some truth, needs some honesty. And if they can find that, and they can be honest with themselves first, then you can start to figure out what you want to break, what you want to stress test, and what you want to go after. At the end of the day, it comes down to connection, I believe.
Yeah.
And your ability to stay connected along the way. Because I'll tell you this, none of this is worth it without you guys. I love you.
I love you too.
Give me a kiss.